Hi, this is Bobby Rempe from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the Barbecue Central Show, the show where we talk about all things that are important in the world of barbecue. From big-name interviews with competitors on the barbecue circuit, grill manufacturers and pit makers, to advice on cooking brisket and ribs. You'll find it all right here on the Barbecue Central Show. Your host, Greg Rempe, is a backyard barbecue and grilling fanatic and loves to talk about his passion, which many of us share together. You can learn more about barbecue and grilling by visiting the website, thebbqcentral.com. Now, let's get in the smoke. Here's your program host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, gang, welcome to another edition of the really big Barbecue Central Show. It's a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Welcome into the barbecue abode. We broadcast live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. Just this past weekend declared the barbecue capital of the North Coast, so we have that going for us. Not much else. Believe me, not much else going on here in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday. Before I tell you what's going on the show tonight, going on the show. Before I tell you what's going to be happening on the show, let me do it that way. Let me give you some contact information in case you want to jump in, take part in the show. Of course, you always know you are more than welcome to take part in the show at any point if you want to. You can do it one of three ways, I suppose. You can do a toll-free 877-448-0433. That's not even a collect call like I was going to say. It's toll-free, my dime. You go ahead and make use of it. You call in, you bring something fantastic to the show. Maybe you have a take on a cooker or a particular fuel that you've used or wood, or whatever the case may be. Construct it in your head, make it right, call in, and realize, I should probably back up just for a second here. Remember this, folks. As professional, as polished as this show sounds, and believe me, one day, I know I've threatened it at least 750 times, one day in the After Dark segment, I'm going to replay the very first podcast that I've ever done. Now, I'm not talking about like the first live show that will be, let's see, February 14th, I think, is going to clock the 4th year of the live show. I'm talking even before just the Barbecue Central podcast, when I did all these shows pre-recorded, edited them down to a certain period of time and put them on iTunes. All the way before that, there were podcasts existing, a small handful of what has to be some of the worst podcasting known to the face of the world. I have to be blatantly honest.
Big stuff out of here.
And to see where we have progressed today. However, regardless of how great, polished, and wonderful the show is, week in, weekend out here during the course of each and every Tuesday that we have on the live show, it's only me. So here's what I want to explain, because we had a little issue with this last week with people calling in trying to win fantastic polishing cloths donated by sponsor of the show, Stephen DeFranco from Stephen DeFranco Jewelers. We have 3 left. So if you're interested, just go ahead and shoot me an email. Tell me you want a polishing cloth. Those are going to be going in the mail this week. So we have 3 winners from last week that are still waiting on theirs. I just want to get them all collected. Nevertheless, there was a point I was going to be making. When you call in, if all of a sudden the phone stops ringing and you hear the show happening, in essence, you're live on the show. Now, I might have your sound volume all the way down, but that doesn't mean there isn't like a greeter or a screener that decides whether you're good enough to make it on the show or not. If you're good enough to punch the digits, if you can make that mental leap, and then all of a sudden you hear the show, you're technically on the air. You just got to wait for me to call out your area code. So know your area code, too. That's helpful. And I'll ask for your name. Here's something that you want to keep in mind desperately. Don't listen to the show and then decide to call in. Do yourself one big favor. Save yourself a headache. Save yourself hanging up on me and then making fun of you for minutes on end afterwards. Stop listening to the show or mute your speakers. Just like regular radio. What you're hearing now I am well past, probably 55 seconds past what you're hearing now. So we're, in essence, on a delay. There's always a delay in the stream for internet. And this is in radio. People operate on terrestrial radio on delay because they don't want you to swear and have it come across the air. Not necessarily the same thing here. There's just delay in audio stream through the internet. It's coming here to Cleveland. It's making out to the internet, going out to you. There's just inherently some type of delay that I can't help. So when you decide to call in and I pick you up and raise your volume, and I'm hearing what I said 55 seconds ago, and you're listening not to me on the telephone, but you're listening to the speakers, bad things happen, echo monster happens, you're not aware of where we are in time frame, things go from bad to worse very quickly. And all of a sudden you get this. And then I hang up on you. It's no fun for anybody. I don't like to do it. It's the fans that make me do it. It's the fans. So just a little tidbit of information in case you want to call in on the show tonight, a little proper call-in etiquette. Anyway, 877-448-0433 in case you want to call in on the show tonight. Also, email Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Here's what's happening in case you've missed the newsletter or Facebook posts and Twitter happenings and whatnot. In about 8 minutes from now, we're going to be joined by Bill Gillespie from Smokin' Hogs. He just won Jack Daniels this past weekend. Following him, 35 past the hour. Co-pit master? We'll have to get clarification on that with Ken. Ken has from Big Bob Gibson's barbecue competition cooking team. They took reserve. So this show, first hour, all dedicated to Jack Daniels and recap top two teams that made it out there. Grand Champ and Reserve Grand Champ joining us here in the first hour. Second hour, I can neither confirm nor deny that Meathead will be making it in. He slept through last show. Slept right through it, the whole hour. It was his. My fault as a host. I got a little lazy. Craig was very accountable. I could always say, look, if you're coming on this date and this time he was rock solid, he was always there, that was my fault. And he screwed me last week. Got home after he was whining and dining his lovely other. Fell asleep. Look, he was probably listening to the show, and I can't fault him for that. And he slept right through his whole segment. And then the segment after that, because he's usually on for like almost an hour. But he didn't have the stamina, nor did he have the ability to stay awake for his segment last week, but he has told me that he's got many different alarm clocks and such other revelries to make sure that he is on time for the second hour. We're going to be talking about a number of things. We'll be talking about the stall. Meathead also has a take on the iPhone 4S and what the personal assistant Siri and how that relates to me, your humble host. He also has an opinion on the take that I had as far as the two kinds of pet owners, if you recall that from last week. And, of course, the meat head of the conversation will be focused around the scientific breakdown of the stall method. So lots to look forward to. Bill Gillespie coming up in just a bit, 35 past the hour. Ken Hess from Big Bob Gibson, meathead in the second hour. So that's what we have going on. 877-448-0433, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. If you're looking for a little top 10 recap of the Jack Daniels, obviously, we know first and second, Smokin' Hogs and Big Bob Gibson's Barbecue 1 and 2. And then a team that's really been on this year, PA Midnight Smokers as your third place. Fourth place, Shiggin' and Grinnin'. Fifth place, no stranger to beating top calls throughout this competition year, Munchin' Hogs at the Hilton, Robert McGee. Sixth place, Chick Swine and Bovine, another guy that has been cooking up a storm this year. Seventh is Spitfire. Eighth, I Smell Smoke. Ninth, believe it or not, many-time friend of the show, especially recently, Tippy Canute. Top 10 overall, Tippy Canute. So Joe Beelan still, not the win that everybody was probably thinking that he was going to get, because nobody cooking any hotter than he was the last 5 weeks in a row. But a top 10 finish out of, I think, was it 90 teams or something like that, or 70 teams? He'll take that for sure. So congratulations to Joe Beelan on a top 10. And then we got Mr. GoneHoggin.com rounding out the top 10. So that's what it looked like over at the Jack this past weekend. Congratulations to everybody. Want to give a special mention Daniel Domowski, DVQ First Place Pork. Thank you very little. What? First Place Pork?
What?
First Place Pork.
What?
Yeah, baby. Bringing home the big money from Jack Daniels, I bet. How about sharing the pork recipe with everybody, Daniel? Like that thing probably hasn't just increased in value at about $758,000, right? Forget about it. All right, we got a lot of stuff coming up, so stay tuned for what promises to be a great show. My bad right there. Blasting over it. Gang, I want to tell you about one of the newest sponsors to the show. You would know them as a competitor on the barbecue circuit. Somebody who does very well on the scene. Somebody who is known for having quality injections when it comes to brisket, especially brisket, I suppose. Also pork. Also fantastic rubs. Got a great sauce out as well. It's got this fabulous, revolutionary product called the Grill that he is getting out on the market to rave reviews. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue. You can check them out on the internet at butcherbbq.com. Are you somebody like myself who has always toiled around with the idea of injecting stuff, and then you're like, you know what? I'm not in the competition scene. I'm not looking to impress judges in one or two bites to make sure that I'm making walks for categories and at the end an overall type instances. So I'm gonna lay off the injection. Maybe it's not for me. It might just be for competition. Well, let me tell you something. Could be more wrong. I've had numerous conversations with Dave about that very subject, and he says, "Look, it doesn't matter if you're competing. It doesn't matter if you're just a backyard hack like yourself, Rempy. You would do wise and better and well if you went ahead and picked up some injection and started injecting your brisket, started injecting your pork butts, and then make the determination after you've used it what type of yield you get, what type of moisture, what type of extra flavor profiles you are able to get right into those butts and briskets because now you're injecting. You're not just keeping it old school for no good reason. So don't think that it's just for competition, because it's not. It's for you and me too, the backyard guy. We got to get on it. butcherbbq.com again is the website. Let me tell you a little bit about this grill product as well. It's both injection or marinade, or you can combine them both. You can marinade your chicken first, let's say, or your pork loin. Then you can also inject grill into the marinated pork loin. So you're getting like double flavor. It's outrageous. It's $22.50 for 2 pounds. And again, everything can be found at butcherbbq.com. And of course, we have those new shipping rates that Dave has worked out with the United States Post Office. Priority shipping for all domestic packages. Now all costs will be set at a flat rate. Orders $55 or less, everything ships at $7. All other orders will be $9. It's just one more way to trust your butcher. butcherbbq.com. We're coming back with winner of the Jack Daniels Bill Gillespie of Smokin' Hogs coming up. Stay tuned.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back to the show. 13 past the hour, coming up just on 14 past the hour. 35 past, Ken Hess from Big Bob Gibson, going to be talking about their reserve grand champion. Also, Meathead is going to be joining us here in the second hour, 877-448-0433, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Joining me now is the pitmaster of Smokin' Hogs barbecue team. They just walked out of Lynchburg with grand champion honors for the 23rd annual Jack Daniels Barbecue Cook-Off. We race over the hotline and bring up Bill Gillespie, first time in. Bill, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Bill. Thanks for asking, first and foremost. And secondly, appreciate you making time out for the show tonight. Talk a little bit about the Jack. You're a few days away from it now. Really one of the biggest competitions that any level of competition cook talks about, one that they want to put on the old notch before you call it a barbecue career. So, as you look across the span of how long you've been competing and events that you've been in, does this one take the cake by far? Could you retire on this one and never look back and have any regrets? How does it kind of sit with you?
Yeah, this is definitely the pinnacle of my barbecue career. Like you said, every competitive barbecue guy looks at, I think, the Jack as the contest to go and compete in and also to win. I'm pretty happy about it.
For the people that don't know, how did you qualify to get in this year?
We qualified we won 3 state championships this year. One of them was an automatic, and that was Merrimack, New Hampshire.
All right, so get in that way. We're talking with Bill Gillespie, Smokin' Hogs barbecue team. The website, by the way, in case you want to check them out, smokinhogsbbq.com. Was this your first time down, Bill?
I've been once before. I was on another team, one of the teams that I started out with. We were there in 2007.
Okay, so I guess, the question that I've had, and, for teams, you got another fellow cook out there in the New England area, IQ, Chris Hart, who's been down, now 10 years in a row, so he's got a very well-versed plan that he works. Your second time down, this is your first time down as Smokin' Hogs.
Right.
How did the weekend go for you? I mean, by all accounts, it's jam-packed with things to do for the cooks. Do you have a game plan set up in advance to execute down there in order to keep yourself and the team on track?
Pretty much. It's pretty much what we've been doing all season long. We have a program that we follow, and it's been working really well for us this year.
Bill Gillespie joining us here on the show. All right, so how did the cook go just in general? I mean, you fire up, you have your bigger cuts on first. Was there anything out of the ordinary that you had to contend with? Any, drunkards kicking stuff over or people stealing people's beef?
We did. We lost a little bit of power, probably about maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. They had to wake me up, say we lost some power. So we figured that out, got that all up and running again. And then it seems I was a little more rushed this time around, just because there was a couple of extra categories before the actual, the 4 big meats. So that kind of had us a little bit behind. But it's kind of how you manage things. You just gotta kind of roll with the punches.
Did you ever give any consideration to not doing any of the ancillary categories and just sticking with the 4 major meats?
Yeah, I did think about that, but I mean, you're down there, so you might as well do all of them, get the full experience.
Do you take the trip up to the hill and do you go eat at all these places that I hear about all the time, or did you kind of skirt away from stuff that might take your attention away?
No, we did the tourist thing. We took a tour of the distillery. We went to the top of the hill. We were there for one thing, obviously, but we also wanted to have a good time too.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at your turn-ins by category. I assume that they call, like they would normally in a KCBS, chicken ribs, pork, and brisket?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
And are they calling out how many places for categories?
I think they call it to 10th place in each category.
Top 10, and then did they do top 10 overall as well?
Yep, they did top 10 overall as well, yep.
All right, so we look at chicken category. No call there. You're 34th.
Right.
One of the unique portions of the Jack Daniels competition, which is probably why it's not KCBS sanctioned, is that they do require you to turn in white meat. So just in general, what did you think about the chicken, and what did you choose for the white meat portion?
For the white meat, we chose wings. It's kind of funny because I really didn't practice doing the 7 pieces with the white meat. I was a little flustered at my turn-in for chicken, a little unhappy with the way it looked, but it sure did taste good.
Tasting is good, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you taste your chicken, and do you taste your categories just in general before you turn them in, or some?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you get 34th on that. Ribs is next, another no call, so you're 26 ribs overall. How did they feel for you as you turn them in?
I thought they felt pretty well. The taste and everything has pretty much been what we've had all year long. They might have been a little dry, in my own personal opinion, but overall, I thought they were decent.
Are you a baby back? Or are you a St. Louis style guy?
St. Louis.
Is that something you always go with, or have you traded back and forth from time to time?
No, I've done pretty much St. Louis. I think there was one contest last year that I tried baby backs, but I'm pretty much a spare rib St. Louis kind of guy.
Bill Gillespie joining us here on the show. We're breaking down the category turn-ins that won on the Jack Daniels this past weekend. All right, pork is next. Top 10 call here, 9th place pork. Not knowing where you're hanging for the first two categories, how good does hearing your name called and getting to walk the stage?
Oh, we were thrilled. I like the way we did our pork this time. Just to hear your name called, I was pretty much at that point. I was like, sweet. I'm happy. I heard my name called at the Jack. I can go home a happy person. So that pretty much made our weekend at that point.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I don't know if you go around asking when you're visiting with some of the other teams. Obviously, everybody that's going down there wants to win it. And then there has to be some other, let's say, less prioritized goals where you want to hear a call or you just want to finish in this place or that place. Just hearing one call out of a category would have been just fine with you?
Absolutely. Yep. Especially in a field of that caliber. You're talking about the top teams in the country.
All right. So last category is brisket. Don't hear your name for that, but you're not that far out of the call. You're 14th overall.
Right.
So I'm wondering, I'm talking to a lot of competition teams during the course of, however long I've been doing the show. And for the teams that win it seems like, that they're up there, top 10, top 5. They're getting 3 out of 4 category calls. They might win a couple. So the math, or at least logically, they would be thinking to themselves, I got a really good shot at winning this. Not hearing your name called 3 out of the 4, and they're starting to call out top 10 overall. Where's your mindset there?
I'm thinking, I don't know, just to maybe finish in the top half, with just the call and pork. You never know how these things really go, but we felt pretty good about our brisket. It's been pretty much our go-to category, if you will, for the whole season. We've done really well with brisket. I like I said, I was just happy with the pork call. So, to hear it overall was just amazing.
Now, as you're getting closer and closer to getting reserve, and then overall, when you hear Big Bob Gibson's getting called reserve, is there ever a thought in your mind that the next name that's going to be called is yours, or do you completely don't even think about that? You dismiss it altogether?
Nah, there's always a glimmer of hope. You're always down to the wire. It could be, and if it is, awesome. If it's not, it's not the end of the world. But, yeah, there was a little bit of a glimmer of hope, just kind of running through everything in my head, who got calls, just the situation at hand, really. All
right, so when your name's called, you have Smokin' Hogs as overall grand champion for the 23rd Jack Daniels. Initial emotions, initial thoughts that spring right in your head as you hear your name called.
Holy crap, that's us. That's really us. It's just, I don't know, absolutely amazing.
Is there a contest that you can compare it to that you've been to that you've had this type of an elation or joy of winning, or is it just on a whole different planet?
Earlier in the year, we won our very first grand championship at in Rochester, New York, at the Rock City Rib Fest, and that was absolutely amazing. And to win the Jack and to have that kind of feeling, but like tenfold. The first one was awesome, but this one is just awesome times a million,
And it's got to be a little bit sweeter in the fact that, every winner gets to go right back the following year and stab their hand again.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're thrilled about that, and we can't wait.
Bill Gillespie joining us here on the show. Again, the website, if you want to check them out, SmokingHogsBBQ.com, another New England team. So there's having a little bit of success going from north down south to Lynchburg between you and IQ and some of the other great teams cooking out there in the Nebs area. Do you think that New England is getting, of course, you got Steve Farron up there too, I Smell Smoke. Do you think that your section of teams out there in the country are getting the respect and kind of that justification for being good cooks up where we are?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're slowly realizing that the Northeast is the place to be for barbecue now.
Should be one of the newest 5 meccas of barbecue. Forget
That's
Carolina.
That's right, absolutely.
All right, Bill, so, for the people that aren't as familiar with your whole background in barbecue, how about a little synopsis of you and kind of how you got into this whole barbecue deal and when you decided to start competing?
All right. Well, I've been cooking on a smoker for about 15 years. I started out on one of those small little Brinkman gourmet smokers. And a couple of guys that I worked with were doing some backyard competitions, and they asked me if, I wanted to kind of tag along, and I said sure. So I started competing in 2005, and my very first contest, there was the 4 standard categories plus a chef's choice, and I did a smoked salmon. Got a call for 4th place, and I've been hooked ever since.
Is that what happens? You mean you go to one of these things, you compete, you get a call, and it's like, man, I'm good enough to do this right off the bat, right?
Yeah, it's like, wow, maybe I can really do this kind of thing. I've always been a fan of barbecue anyway, so just to have that first call, just sort of, it made sense.
Bill, I have to ask you this question coming in from the Gone Hog and Barbecue team. They want to know if you can credit any of the success to the fact that the machine visited you at the Royal.
Absolutely. It was all the machine.
I have no idea what that means, so it's got to be an inside joke. So you started competing in 2005. What do you cook on now? What's your competition rig?
I cook on a Backwoods Fat Boy and a WSM.
Any reason why you decided to look at a Backwoods style smoker?
I like how it's insulated. I like that it's a water smoker. It's pretty easy to use, and it turns out one hell of a product.
Do you use lump briquettes in there, or do you use hardwood?
I use lump.
All right. Now, are you injecting, or you're not injecting your bigger cuts, your briskets and butts?
I am. Yep, I do inject.
Are you willing to give up your injection? Is it something you make homemade, or are you using something that's readily available on the market these days?
No, I use Butcher's beef and Butcher's pork.
All right. Well, I'm sure he's very happy to hear that. Butcher Barbecue, a sponsor of the show, so it's winning. Dave Bosco, a little hand in helping you win the Jack Daniels this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess one of the other questions that I have for you is you have a lot of teams. Competition barbecue especially seems to be growing leaps and bounds. You look back over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a huge explosion in the number of teams that are showing up, the interest that people have, because, look, let's face it, we can love football all we want in a professional level, but I'm not going to be able to get out there on a field and perform at a world-class level. I'm going to guess that you're probably not either. So competition barbecue allows us to not have to be in world-class shape in order to try our hand at cooking great barbecue. So for the teams that are looking to get into it or have just started, what advice do you have now that you got 5-6 years underneath your belt? Do you have to teams getting out there to help kind of ramp their learning curve?
Just practice, and just to try to get your food consistent every time. That's what we did this off season. I mean, I owe a lot of our success to Chris Hart. He was pretty instrumental with helping us along our way. He's just a great guy and just very willing to help you out. But yeah, for the new teams, I just practice.
Now, for your briskets, are you a Sam's Club brisket guy, or have you fallen down into the Wagyu folks as well? Where are you cooking?
Yeah, I've fallen to the Wagyu.
Do you find that because I'm sure there was obviously a good period of time when you weren't using that. When you made the switch, was there a learning curve on how to cook it? Was it pretty simple to switch over from one to the next, and are you finding that big of a difference?
Well, I never practiced on one. We went to a first contest this year with the Wagyu, and we cooked it for the very first time there, and we got a 9th place in brisket. And I figured as long as I, stayed true to the guidelines of just, cooking a regular, Sam's Club brisket, I figured it wouldn't be far off.
Now, for your rubs, is that something that you guys like to use that you're making up in the kitchen, or are you using all ready-made, already on the market rubs as well?
Yeah, we use a ready-made product.
Do you think that the flavor profile in competition barbecue is becoming too similar amongst a lot of categories? Would you like to see some diversity, or do you think there's going to be a little bit more diversity than there is currently?
Well, I actually don't know because I don't really taste the other teams. From what I'm hearing, I think that they are getting very similar. It's just I think there's little differences between everybody. How they cook them. Some may use a little too much of one thing versus another. I still think there's a little bit of variety, but that's just my opinion.
Bill Gillespie is my guest. Bill, what's next for Smoking Hogs? You guys done for the year now after this? You going to party until the turn of the year, or you still got some competitions to go to?
No, that was it. We're done. We're done for the season. Just going to rest a little bit and gear up for next year.
That's a hell of a walk-off shot this year, Bill.
Yeah, right. It's awesome.
How many competitions do you plan on doing next year? Have you started to map out?
Well, yeah, we've mapped out a few. We did, I think, 12 this year, so we're thinking somewhere around the same, 12 to 15 for next year.
All right, there he is, Bill Gillespie. You can find him again, SmokingHogsBBQ.com. Do you have anything else you'd like to plug, Bill? Do you frequent any forums you'd like to mention or anything like that? Place people want to track you down?
Well, if I'd like to plug one of my sponsors.
Yeah, please.
Chad and Nicole Humphreys from Humphreys Chips and Chunks. They supply me with all my charcoal and my wood and everything for smoking. They've pretty much been with us since the beginning. Since actually we started Smoking Hogs in 2008, and a few months later they jumped on board and they took a risk with us, and it's been a nice partnership.
Yeah, paying off absolutely right now. You're looking at the winner of the 23rd Jack Daniels Barbecue Cook-Off, Bill Gillespie from Smoking Hogs. Again, the website, SmokingHogsBBQ.com. Bill, congratulations again. Appreciate the time tonight. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, take care. There he is. Bill Gillespie, winner of the Jack Daniels, baby. Yeah, can't take it away. Sorry, can't take that away from me. I'm not going to sing tonight. Full house tonight, so I'm not going to sing. How about those Massachusetts boys coming up? I Smell Smoke, I think, was he just out? I said it. Yeah, he was top 10 as well. So, got Chris Hart. He's won it. You got Bill Gillespie. He's won it just this weekend. Steve Farron, very close to winning it. Top 10, top 8. So watch out for these Nebs guys. Who knew that they could smoke butts and briskets up there where it's cold just as much as it is here in Cleveland, for crying out loud? Not me, but they can do it. But Chris Hart's demand for cooking classes is going steadily through the roof as we speak. Thanks to Bill Gillespie again for coming on. Again, quick reminder about Draper's Barbecue. They're the newest sponsor to the show. Draper's Barbecue is a third-generation barbecue company located in western Kentucky, in between Memphis and Kansas City. Shane Draper wanted to create a line of products that represented both cities as well as the flavor profiles from his home. Draper's Smokin' Sauce is a savory with a touch of sweetness, tangy with some heat. Its balanced yet complex blend of spices is just at home on the competition trail as it is grilling in your backyard. Smokin' Sauce has brought home several trophies this year on ribs and chicken. and is on the front lines in the battle against overly sweet flavor profiles, which I hate. Don't bring that sweet sauce to me, mister. Hey, Draper's Barbecue also has a fantastically versatile rub known simply as AP Rub. The AP is short for all purpose, as it has a great flavor enhancer on any protein, but it can be used on popcorn or french fries, salads, onion rings, soups, chowders, Chex Mix, baked potatoes, and in dredges for frying fish or chicken. You know what a dredge is, right? Of course you do. Your imagination is its only limitation. All-purpose rub, balance of savory, salt, sweet, and heat make it great on virtually anything. Now, smokin' sauce and AP Rub are great products stand alone, but really shine when used together. The dovetail of the two flavor profiles makes a completely different and even more complex flavor profile that will keep the judges thinking about your entry long after they have put it down. They might even come back for second or third bites. The mix of the two was designed to have a roller coaster effect on the palate that swings the taster through all parts of their taste buds. You can find Draper's products 3 different locations on the interwebs: drapersbbq.com/store, bbqaddicts.com, makers of the Bacon Explosion, bbqaddicts.com, or Barbecue Pro Shop, which is bbqproshop.com. All trusted Draper's resources. Also look for Draper's Barbecue on Facebook and Twitter. Shane always available to help answer questions with flavor profiles. If you have a local store you want Draper's Barbecue products in, send Shane an email at info@drapersbbq.com. They are always adding stores in new markets, and your tip could lead you to earning some free swag, baby. Yeah! You want a Draper's shirt? I do. I get one extra large. Draper's Barbecue, when they say 3 generations of pride and flavor in a bottle, they mean it. Get some today. Both. Use both. They dovetail. DrapersBBQ.com. We're coming back with the Reserve Grand Champion. Big Bob Gibson next.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Big B, Moonshine Band, Suburban Boys Records. Let's go! I'm an outlaw. Give me 2 shots. We don't need a radio. Bring a jukebox for my outlaws. Bring me 3 shots. We can raise hell before the speed stops. I'm a whiskey drinking SOB. If you don't like that, then you won't like me. I'm an outlaw.
Oh, we're all outlaws up in this bitch. Hell yeah. All right, we got to call in to we got to call into the office here for Ken.
Good afternoon, Big Bob Gibson.
Ken Hess, please.
This is him.
Ken, Greg from Barbecue Central Radio, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing very well. Didn't figure you were going to be answering the phone. Figured I'd be passed back, but you're doing everything, I guess, tonight.
Well, I was on top of it. It wasn't, they're closed now, actually, officially, so I was able to grab it before any of the employees did.
All right, so let me give you some proper introduction here since I thought we were going to have to do a little phone passing around. Joining me now is the, can I say co-pitmaster, Ken? Is that proper or no?
I guess.
Can I just call you pitmaster?
Chris is the pitmaster, Big Bob Gibson.
Well, I'm going to say co-pitmaster of Big Bob Gibson's barbecue team. They finished in reserve this past weekend at Jack Daniels. It's Ken Hess joining me here on the show. I know him as Big Hoss. You take reserve this weekend. Ken, how did the cook go for you guys?
It went really well. It was a little cold at night. It got down about 35, 36 degrees, so it was pretty cold. But our Jed Master cookers held their temperature. We did get up a little bit more often just to make sure and guarantee that the pits were holding their temps.
Now,
in terms of how we felt about the product, we felt we turned in the best ribs, according to Don McLemore, who's one of our owners, that he feels we've ever turned in competition. We did end up taking 3rd place with those this weekend, and we missed first by a point. And then in terms of our chicken and brisket and pork, we feel like we have a very solid 4 categories at the moment in our cooking careers.
All right, so for the teams or for the people listening tonight, we got a packed house for the live show. How did Big Bob Gibson's qualify for Jack Daniels this year?
We won a little contest called Memphis in May back in
Yeah, never heard of it. I heard that's going to be an up-and-coming competition one of these days. All right, so you win Memphis in May to get down to the Jack. Have you guys been down to, or Big Bob's been down to Jack Daniels before?
We have. We've been here about 5 times now over the history. And this was our 7th trip. Oh, no, this was our 7th trip. I apologize. This was our 7th cook at Jack Daniels.
All right, 7 times down. What's it like? I mean, how many times have you been there personally, Ken?
This was actually my first time to travel with the team and be at for Big Bob Gibson's and be at the Jack Daniels.
All right, so you're part of a well-known team. You've done very well this year. But as someone who is just kind of getting down there for the first time and seeing all the majesty and the mystique that is associated with this competition, what are some of your personal thoughts as you were kind of taking it in for the first time? What'd you like? Anything you didn't like?
It was an awesomely organized and well-run contest. It was amazing how much it had a very small, very close-knit feel to it, whereas you're thinking, I'm at the Jack Daniels, this is going to be like crazy, like the American Royal or Memphis have 300 teams or 500 teams. There's only 85 teams out there. So it's a very, home feel to the whole contest, which I really enjoyed.
Is there enough stuff going on all the time where if you're not executing a game plan or prepared to do what you've come down to do that you could easily get distracted and put yourself behind at some point?
Oh, you definitely could. I mean, you could see that there's, 19 to 20 international teams that they're doing their, traditional meals from their countries. They're dressed in their traditional outfits from their countries. There's a lot of extracurricular activities for what the distillery produces, per se. And, there's a whole town square, which is absolutely beautiful and very, like you could go buy antiques. There was over 250 different craft vendors and other things there that, if you weren't staying still at your site, you could definitely get lost. I think they had 25,000 people showed up to this little holler.
That's a little bit. That's a little bit of people,
yeah.
I think, yeah.
I think the population's only 500 people during the regular time of the year.
Yeah, so it explodes a little bit come Jack Daniels barbecue time. Does Big Bob Gibson's area get a little bit more crowd traffic because of Chris and the name associated with the company?
We definitely, you have a lot of people who come by with books. Jack Daniels is one of the few contests where you're actually allowed to sell your product. We have a very big family that comes up to support us, and a lot of them were, selling sauces, selling books, selling T-shirts, selling hats. And so, we've got a lot of people that stop by and want to see Chris, get the book signed. But, when it's crunch time, our family is very good about, saying, Chris is busy. If he'll come back after turn-ins, you'll be able to visit with him and take pictures with him. So it does get things a little harder to get sometimes from point A to point B for, if Chris is walking because, he wants to see all the fans that love the book and love our company. So it does make sometimes getting to, turn-in times, well, not necessarily turn time for food, but to register for the event, different things like that. It kind of makes it harder to travel a little bit.
Ken Hess from Big Bob Gibson's joining us here talking about the Reserve Grand Championship win this past weekend. So if we look at the turn-ins, Ken, you addressed them a little bit ago, just cursory, but we look a little bit more in depth. Chicken, obviously everybody is, talking about how you have to add that white chicken entry in, and you get 27th overall in chicken. So, not necessarily bad, not huge score, but definitely well respected given the teams that were there. What do you use for the white portion of the chicken, and how happy were you with the chicken turn-in?
We were really happy. We used chicken breasts, and we used our product here from the restaurant, broke them down, trimmed them up, and then, smoked them. But it added another element to our cook that, now you have to perfectly nail cooking that chicken breast. Because if you don't, it won't be moist, it won't, be tender, and it'll be dry and overcooked. So it added, a few more steps into what we had to watch and take care to execute on. So made it a little bit tighter. Also, the turn-in times are all a half an hour behind traditional KCBS times. So it kind of, you're sitting there going, all right, it's 11. This should be there. This should be there. But you're like, oh, no, but my first turn-in is until 12:30. So, it throws you off in terms of your day-to-day KCBS. I couldn't imagine people that do 40 KCBS contests a week having to be off in a half hour, you know?
It's got to be a little weird.
Yeah.
Ribs is next. You get a third-place call in Ribs, so only two people better than you, and as you said, a point separates you from the top. Don McLemore, obviously one of the most trusted palates probably in the country when it comes to barbecue, saying that those are some of the best rib turn-ins. What do you think put him over the top this time?
I think, again, attention to detail. We've had some very solid run-ins with our ribs this year. We went up to Louisville for a private cook-off against some teams. 6 teams and won that. So we're very confident right now with our ribs, the recipes we've come up with, the execution, and I think we were on top of our game. We focused on those details, and that's what really brought it in. And then, you know, also selection of a great product. You know, we select from our ribs from the restaurant. We probably went through, you know, 5 or 6 boxes to get the ones we needed.
Ken Hess joining us here on the show. Pork next, 26 overall, so one better than the chicken. But you don't hear your name called, so do you get concerned? Is it all just part of the process?
Well, one thing that Chris did mention to me before we went up is like, look, you know, there's a lot of celebrity judges that aren't certified that, you know, you're going to see scores you've never seen in our score sheets before. And so I was prepared for, you know, we might not get a call, might not hear our name in some of our strongest categories, which, you know, pork is
right.
What Big Bob Gibson's bread and butter is made on. So we were definitely hoping to get a call on pork, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah. Last category, brisket, 19th overall. So, again, not hearing your name called, but how did the brisket turn out for you guys?
I think the brisket was just as exceptional as the second-place brisket we had in the Invitational. It was there, the points were there, the flats were there, and it was a beautiful box. And, you know, we were not ashamed of any of the products we turned in. We felt like we had a chance going to awards to win.
All right.
And take it all home.
You go through awards, you get your call in ribs, but no other calls that you're hearing. And I just had Bill Gillespie on talking about, you know, what it's like to hear when they're starting to call overall. You only heard your name called once. I don't know how well you're keeping track of all the other teams and kind of where they're placing. So as names start to tick off, you're getting higher and higher up in prize money and reserve and overall champion. And when you get up to that 5th place, that 4th place, you haven't heard your name called yet. Do you think that you've tanked off the categories a little farther than you might have hoped, or is there always a shot for winning for you guys?
Well, one thing is that the Kingsford Points Chase was this weekend also. It was actually the culmination of all the points chase was ending at the Jack Daniels. And as earlier in the contest, it would have been announced that we were the highest points team for the Kingsford Points Chase. So we won $500 from Kingsford earlier in the awards. So as it started going up past 5th, you're starting to look at each other like, hey, you know, we're the number 1 Kingsford Points Chase team for this weekend. There's a chance we've won this thing. You know, and then you get the 3rd place is announced. I remember looking back at Chris, I was like, you think we did this? He's like, man, I don't know. And so then they announced us for the Reserve Grand Champion, and we were like, oh, you know, we thought we had it. We thought we had done, you know, one of the harder things of winning the Jack Daniels and Memphis in May in the same year.
Is there, I mean, so what is it like? I mean, obviously everybody wants to win. I would assume 99.9% of teams would be ecstatic getting Reserve Grand Champion. Is it a little, are you put off a little bit that you didn't take overall since you're that close?
I mean, we came to win, and then there's definitely disappointment that we didn't. But to have the year we've had and get Reserve Grand Champion, but then when you get your score sheets and you're .57 away from winning, I mean, the Smoke and Hog guys came to congratulate us. They were, you know, a great group of guys, and they were, like, so excited. And they're like, we can't believe it was that close because, you know, most of the big contests are determined by lots and points. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Chris and I were talking earlier today, if over the past year since Big Bob Gibson has been competing, if you would give us 1 point and let us divide it how we wanted, we would take the .7 for this Jack Daniels. We lost the American Royal the Lotta Bowl by 1/1000th of a point, and we lost Memphis in May once by .25 points.
Wow.
So you're talking about 1 point, we could be 3 world champions higher.
It's it's a fickle word, that barbecue, right?
Yeah, and we strive. I mean, we go out to win. work over the winter times, trying to, see what we've done wrong, look at our score sheets over the year, analyze, is it taste, is it tenderness, what can we change? And we work really hard to make sure that the product we're putting out is the number one.
Ken Hess joining us here on the show, breaking down Jack Daniels. Ken, it has been a very good year for you guys. Big Bob's isn't necessarily known for really hitting the trail like some of the other teams on KCBS and FBA, IBCA circuits. You won Memphis in May earlier this year, like we talked about. You take reserve this past weekend at the Jack. Do you and Chris ever find yourselves maybe a little unfulfilled when it comes to the amount of competitions that you do during the course of the year?
I think we would like to get out more than we do, but we do so much traveling with Kingsford and like South Beach Food and Wine Festival. We've done some large catering events for NASCAR. We do so much stuff now that, I right now don't have a family, but Chris has got 3 children, and Don and Chris, Don's got his grandchildren. They're involved in athletics, and I think being with the family and being with the kids doing their activities is more important than going out every weekend. And, we always talk about, man, we wish we could just jump down the road for a quick one. But, I think at the end of the day, being with your family is what's the most important. And when we started competing, the family was always able to come. So now that the children have gotten older, that's more, I think, the focus is that keeping the family traditions and values intact aren't always involved with barbecue every weekend.
Absolutely. Ken Hess joining us here on the show. All right, last question before I let you go, Ken. Probably toughest question of the night. Put you on one side with whatever smoker you want, Chris Lilly on another side with any smoker that he wants. Who's coming out on top of this barbecue showdown?
I don't think there's even a chance there. We work so well together that, there are things that he can come up with an idea and I can spin it a different way, and I'm going to say we're pretty evenly matched on that one.
No, I'm not going to take that answer.
Me, though.
I'm not going to take that answer. Give me an answer.
He'll beat me.
Oh, all right. I'll take it. Ken Hess is a co-pitmaster of Big Bob Gibson's. They just took reserve grand champion this past weekend. It's the 23rd Jack Daniels. And, of course, they won Memphis in May earlier this year. Ken, always appreciate you making time for the show. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
All right, take care. There he is. Ken Hess, great guy, having a great year. Again, this is a team that is not known for cooking a lot of events. Very busy doing a lot of other stuff within the industry. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to Smokin' Hawks as well. All right, guys. Look, you've asked me time and time again. I'm getting those freaking emails. Why is a jeweler even wasting 1 red cent on this barbecue show? No, not going to listen to it. I'm done listening to it. I'm not going to answer your questions. And look, if you can't understand why you would be interested, why you would be excited to the very core of your being on why you want to check out Steven DeFranco, you're just missing the boat. You don't love yourself. You don't love others. As a matter of fact, you're a danger to yourself and more of a danger to others. This is what you're going to do. First, you're going to go to the webpage, Barbecue Central Radio Show webpage, and click on the Steven DeFranco Jewelers banner. It will take you to a landing page that Steve has made up especially for us Centralites, fans of Steve, fans of me in the show. And he's going to give you some special deals that are going on right now. The one that I took full advantage of, you can see right here, I have a Accutron watch made by Bolivo, the Highline. And I was able to take advantage of some extra special savings. I paid for it now. Don't think that I'm just styling this like a free car or jewelry that you see on the red carpet. It's not like that. But I was able to get a 30% discount on the Accutron line of watches. You can too. Now, I didn't mention my own name because that's kind of self-involved. But if you mention my name and the term Barbecue Brother, you can get an additional $50 off the watch. Plus, it ships for free. Plus, you get free polishing, free engraving. They'll set the time for free. Everything pretty much for free. Plus, all of the new Accutron watches, the Bolivo watches, the Citizen, the Philip & Company watches are now in stock for the holidays. You get Christmas layaway. It's available at no charge. Nobody doing layaway anymore, but Steven DeFranco is. For Ohio residents only, and there are some listeners in Ohio that can take advantage of this. 6 months same as cash financing available through Springleaf Financial. And, of course, there's still that special deal, $100 off the $895 Blue Blood watch by Philip & Company. Look, you got to buy yourself some. Treat you right, for crying out loud. Tell your wife or your girlfriend, your lover, opposite sex, same sex, doesn't matter, that you would love to have a finely crafted timepiece on your wrist. What's wrong with that? As Steve said when he was in here a couple weeks ago, we're guys. We don't bling ourselves out to the 10th degree, but a watch is a certain way that you can do it and still stay classy, Central X. So go to StephenDeFranco.com or visit the Barbecue Central Radio Network's homepage. We'll wrap up the first hour after this. Stay tuned.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right. Getting into the end of the second hour. Thanks for joining me, everybody. 877-448-0433. My name is Greg Rempe. And I'm your program host. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show right here on the Barbecue Central Radio Networks. Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. Thanks again to Bill Gillespie from Smokin' Hogs. SmokingHogsBBQ.com is their website. And they pulled off Grand Championship honors for the 23rd Jack Daniels. Very prestigious. One that everybody wants to win. I don't know if every competitor is going to sit there and say that they would rather win the Jack Daniels over any other competition if given the opportunity to pick one, but the majority of them probably would, safe to say. Elaborate drawing process. You do have the fact that everybody that is in there has won some type of an event, so you can't say that they're not, winners. Your argument comes in saying that, all of the best teams this year aren't necessarily invited. But look, that's just the way it is, and perhaps that's why a lot of people want to. That's what I think I had broken it down with Heath Hall maybe a month ago. It's not necessarily there's like a mystique or a majesty, which of course there is. But I think teams are desperate to win. Why? Because if they get pulled for next year, there is a legitimate shot that they might not ever get called again if they don't win those automatic qualifiers. If they don't win 7 before the certain period of time, or they don't win the year before so they get to go again. You might go once, and that might be the only time that you ever get to go it again. So there is desperation. There is that huge sense of urgency. So if you're able to win it, you've really kind of achieved something that, for all intents and purposes, other people might never, ever get the option of doing. And I think that's why there is such a majesty, such a mystique when it comes to winning the Jack Daniels. All right. A couple other things that I wanted to address here that I was going to try and get to in the open. Last week, we had Candy Weaver on talking about that St. Louis competition and the fact that the organizers showed up late. I have no news as far as if people have gotten paid yet or not. They're still within that 30-day time period, I believe, that he was talking about getting money to. But I got a lot of reaction through email saying that Candy, they thought that Candy was coming across a little wishy-washy, and that she wasn't willing to take a stand on a guarantee or this or that. Here's my summatory thoughts. Is that a Rempeism? John Dawson, summatory. I'm claiming that one too. Claim that for me, ladies and gentlemen. Summatory. I believe I wanted to say summation, but in summary, in that whole regard, let me say this. I think if KCBS doesn't want to be, and perhaps they don't even not want to be, they just aren't. If they're not going to be associated with a guaranteeing of prize purses, if that is something that is strictly up to the organizer, that is something that needs to be not even remotely in a gray area for any team signing up for any contest. There needs to be some kind of a message put out. They need to run ads and bull sheets. They need to have email correspondence. They need to have something that is given out as receipts when you're signing up for competitions, that what you're signing up to, there is a caveat emptor. You might be signing up for something that, aside from rules, sanctioning, judges, this training, that training, it's kind of at your own risk. The guy might say he's got $50,000, but it could come up short. These are things that you need to be aware of, and KCBS is not responsible for that. That being said, how do you hold the organizer accountable? I could promote that I'm going to be having a huge payout just to attract top teams, all the while knowing that I'm going to show up with $8.75 and a healthy ass kicking after the fact. But how are we going to give out some kind of guarantee? Because it'll happen again, I guarantee it. It might not be as big of a deal. It could be a bigger deal, and then what? Imagine it being bigger than $10,000 short. Now you have quite an issue on your hands. How are you going to address that? Is there some type of escrow? Is there some type of oversight committee or guarantee committee that you can have to keep that from happening? I don't know. But making sure that every team knows that they don't have anything to do with it is probably the best way to go. All right, we're going to step away so we can do the second hour intro. Meathead Goldwyn coming up in 14 minutes. Stand by.
This is Huck Jr., the host of In the Hut, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling all the time.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shake a face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole lot at the movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, we are back for the second hour. Thank you. Thank you very much. Meathead coming up here in about 12 minutes from now. 877-448-0433. If you got something to say, Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. Patrick, first of all, thank you very much for being my lead guy, you and Don G both, for reminding me to turn off my bumper music. But here's the thing. You probably haven't noticed because I'm such the professional, but I've actually resegmented out the second hour just like the first. We have attracted a new group of sponsors, and I've been able to almost sell out the second hour of sponsorship. 3 ads during the first hour. There will be 3 ads during, 2 paying. And then trying to secure that third one. It's between a couple different people right now. So it automatically just goes right into it. I could bore you to death with the mechanics of the show, and who needs to hear that? 877-448-0433. Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. For the life of me, McPoop is back. Oh, my God. McPoop is back. National campaign is now in full force. I thought it was a mere joke. But no, my friends. McPoop is back in mass marketing, and it is McDisgusting, McAtrocious, McNasty. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. And I thought it was a joke that I evidently am using the term friend loosely. What? I said I'm using the term friend loosely when I call people like Kit Rudd friends. When I call people like Don G friends. What? Not friends. McPoop lovers. McPoop lovers. Look, folks, I understand that especially now, Starting to get a little bit colder out there. Shivery, icy cold breath mornings. Car might start the windshield probably frosting over. Hell, the folks in Canada probably got 17 inches of snow over the weekend. So it makes it a little rougher to want to get out there and fire up the cookers and barbecue, the real stuff. So what do we do as Americans? Look, let's look at each other hard in the face. Looking at you, sir. You over there. Let's look at us internally. Let's come clean as Americans, as North Americans, like the continent. That includes you, Canada. Let's look at each other, at ourselves internally. Let's do a retrospective. Let's do an introspective. Forget even retro. But let's look internally and ask ourselves, are we so lazy as a society? Are we so instant gratification as a society that we as human beings consume? I would like to think that we are in a special niche of culinary delight as barbecue people. We like to cook. We're foodies at heart. We have a niche for barbecue and grilling. But we like food, good food. Guys, I hate to break it. McPoop is not good. It's McPoop. It's poop. You could poop on a bun and put barbecue sauce on it with onion slivers and pickles? Pickles? It's weird enough when I go to Chick-fil-A and they hide pickles underneath the chicken sandwich. That's weird to me. But nevertheless, you could poop on bread, cover it in barbecue sauce, put the slivered onions with pickles on it. You got the same thing. And you guys are posting pictures on my Facebook page just to make me mad. Look, you both know Kit and who's the other guy that had Don. You're doing it, but you are reaping. You are sowing. You are reaping what you sow when you eat McPoop. It's not fun after the fact. And guess what? I can't speak from experience, but I saw the posts on my Facebook page. I did. And quite frankly, some of those things were confirmed, and I don't want any part of that. So, yeah, like you, Kit, still reaping the rewards of eating that McRib. How good did it look when you opened that cardboard container with the bread all wilted away because it's been over-steamed? And with, I mean, what is McRib? It's not like pork, man. Are you telling me that you are under the impression that they have taken baby back ribs or spare ribs, or at the very least rib tips off of a untrimmed spare and have lovingly shaved down the pork off of the rib tip, then found some type of a mold and pressed the meat down? It's spongy weirdness. It's not barbecue. It's not anything related to the rib family. Pulling my intercostal ribs out of my human being, my person, would taste better than a McRib. And people love it. This is the exact thing that is wrong with the consuming public. Why they love these fall-off-the-bone ribs, while they like this horse crap pulled pork in a bucket that's already pre-made and sauce that you can heat in the microwave. For what? You people love McRib. You eat 1 and 2 and 8 McRibs. You have McRib eating contests. You fake epic mealtime. Whatever the hell was that called? Somebody forwarded me, Food Hoarder, whatever the hell it is. You buy 10 McRibs. You got a huge bun that you buy at the grocery store, and you start stacking McRibs on it and make your own McRib sandwich. Gigundo. For what? Look, if you guys want to have a competition to see how much individual crap you can eat, and the person who eats the most poop wins, I don't want to know about it. I mean, I do. I don't want to know about it. And you people are doing something terrible to yourselves, and you're doing stuff terrible to others. This personification, this, there's a better word that I'm looking for. Oh, damn it. But this perpetuation, and McDonald's knows it, man. McDonald's knows it. What can I tell you? They pull it away. You watch, in 3 weeks, people are going to be going through withdrawals of poop. Why? I don't know. I'm never going to go through withdrawals of poop because I won't eat it. But you'll see, you'll get hooked. It's like McRib heroin, I think is what it is. I don't want any part of it. Meathead Goldwyn coming up next. He's not sleeping. DJ Watkins bringing it strong right there on that comment. Look, gang, only a few short weeks left. Not even weeks. Week. To get registered for Turkey Fest 2011. It's happening Sunday, November 5th. Starts at 10 a.m., goes to 3, so a nice full day over in Shillington, Pennsylvania. The Smoking Guitar Player and the people at Fred's Music and Tasty Licks Barbecue Supply invite you to an all-day turkey grilling and roasting demonstration at our barbecue showroom at 214 West Lancaster Avenue in Shillington, Pennsylvania. They'll be cooking on the Big Green Egg and other fantastic grills and smokers. And here's the demonstration class roster. You've probably heard it before, so sit back and relax. For those that haven't, listen in. This could push you over the edge. Mad Max Rosen demonstrates the Mad Max Turkey Method. Max makes his 3rd annual appearance. Comes from Virginia each and every year to show all the eggheads his foolproof method for roasting a turkey on the Big Green Egg. Also, Walter Carroll, Apple Cider Turkey. He's the Big Green Egg distributor representative. He'll be demonstrating for about the 10th time this year his delicious turkey roasting method flavored with apple cider. It's a flavor of the season. Then you have Steve Schmidt of Schmidt's Poultry in the Shillington Farms Market. He'll construct and cook right before your very eyes a turducken. That's right, it's a chicken stuffed with a duck. And then you take that duck and chicken, you stuff it right inside of a turkey. It's like 3 birds in one. Hey, and then they roast it. It's fantastic. Now, you really get a kick out of it because it's great presentation, of course. And, of course, you can also enjoy something that's very popular in the southern United States. Then you got the Smoking Guitar Player himself closing out the demonstration class roster. He'll prepare a roast spatchcock turkey and a beer can turkey. Both hits every year. And you'll learn how to roast a turkey to perfection on your grill in less than 2 hours. So you have 3 different cooking methods that Fred himself is going to be showing you. It's outrageous. It's wonderful. Your people are still talking about McPoop. It's crazy. So you got Mad Max Rosen, you got Walter Carroll, you got Steve Schmidt, you got the Smoking Guitar Player himself, Fred Bonato, all going to be telling you and showing you, most importantly, and you're going to be able to sample all this stuff too. So if you're going to be over in Shillington, Pennsylvania, over there by the Philly area, do yourself a favor. Call now, 800-677-2882. 800-677-2882, or visit fredsmusicandbbq.com. Pick yourself up a smoker, register for the class. It's Meathead next. Stand by.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back to the show. Almost 14 past the hour. I wasn't stalling for Meathead, but I'm going to sit there and I will not stump. I am not a McPoop pundit. So say I'm stalling because Meathead has fallen asleep again, but guess what? That's not the answer. I will sit here and campaign fully and wholeheartedly against the McPoop sandwich until it is banished off the face of the earth. That being said, we race over to the hotline, pick up monthly contributor to the show, Meathead, joining us here from AmazingRibs.com, the most heavily trafficked barbecue and grilling website on the universe. Meathead, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Greg. How is the Cleveland Cavalier of barbecue today?
Absolutely fabulous. I always appreciate it. How is the I forgot what I was going to say.
Get that big stuff out of here.
How's the, is it Rip Van Winkle, the guy that falls asleep all the time?
Somebody in the message board said I didn't fall asleep. I was stalled.
Yes, of course you were. Now, here we go. We have a lot of things to get to, more things coming in even right before showtime that we can talk about. So we have a decent amount of time, a lot of things to get to. The biggest thing, and I have to come clean, for some reason in my mind, I've been calling it the stall method. This isn't a method, it's just the stall. It happens when we cook bigger cuts of meat, the pork, brisket as well. So I apologize to everybody that decided to call me on the carpet and say that I've been saying the stall method. Well, excuse me, I fucked up. Sorry for being a human. It is the stall, and we'll end it at there. So we're going to be talking about that because you've done a lot of work in going in detail scientifically about what that is. Before we get into that, Meathead, you may or may not know that I'm a retail sales consultant for one of the two major wireless networks, AT&T, which is the best network to have an iPhone. You have got a new iPhone yourself, a 4S. How are you finding it?
Well, all I have to do is speak, and it finds me.
Doesn't that make you a lazier phone person?
Actually, it's really quite nice. I'm very happy. It's the first iPhone I've ever had. And I got to tell you something funny. I've lost the video contact with you, so I can't show you what's on the screen. But let me tell you what happened.
Well, I can see you.
You can see me.
I can.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll show you this. I asked the assistant, Siri.
Yes,
is
Siri.
her name.
Yes, I know her.
I asked her, who is Greg Rempe?
Oh, I can't wait for this.
No. Now it's dialing something.
She's not so smart now, is she?
This is going to be bad. Hold on. Let's try this again. Who is Greg Rempe? Oh, she's got to... Oh no, she can't figure it out.
Uh-oh.
I asked her this. I asked her this a few minutes ago, and she said, "Let me find him on the internet for you." And she brought up a website for Greg Wimpy.
Oh no, no! I'm all man. See, it's just more fortification that Siri is still a great concept than a working thing. All right, but otherwise, you're finding the phone to be okay for you?
Yes, I'm a lemming. I'm so far happy with it. I haven't figured out how to use it yet, though.
Well, that's fine. You only figure out about 10% of the phone until you upgrade in 12 months to the iPhone 5. Different story for a different day. Go ahead.
I got to interrupt you, though.
Yeah.
Before we get too far down in here, I really must apologize once again for missing out last week. I just blew it, and I'm a damn fool. And I was very impressed with your ad libs and your story about the dogs. And
that wasn't a story. That was a nightmare.
Oh God! On that subject.
Yes, please. I was going to lead you into that.
Heal, Craig. Heal. I raised puppies for leader dogs for the blind as a hobby. I've got 6 of them. My 6th one is in-house now. I've had 5 of them in the past. They've all graduated, and there's usually only a 50% graduation rate. I do a pretty decent job of dog training. And I got to tell you, your sister-in-law really needs to teach the dog off, down, and go to mat. Those are 3 really useful commands. Off means whatever you're jumping up on, get off of it. Down means lay down and stay there until I tell you to get up. And go to mat means if you've got a little rug or a mat in the corner, you go on your mat and you lay there until I release you. They're wonderful commands. They're easy to train, and they make your dog civilized and not frighten little children. And your sister's problem was, aside from the fact she didn't know how to deal with it, the other thing is she needs to learn about crates. Dogs, if properly trained with crates, love them. It's not jail. It's their favorite place. It's their home. It's their special place. Crates are very nice. Or a room, the bedroom. Your sister needs to do a little dog training, take an obedience class. And you could possibly also tell your 6-year-old, stop running around with your hands waving in the air.
Yeah.
It just gets the dog excited, because their mental age, a 6-year-old child and a dog are about the same, so neither of them's quite in control.
No.
But your sister-in-law needs to do a little dog training.
All right, so I'll make sure that I pass this segment along to her. So
the other thing that came up last week that I thought I could pitch in on is the subject of meat glue. You were asking about meat glue.
Yeah, I thought I remember actually seeing. I don't know if it was on YouTube or if I actually saw it on national television about some type of substance that ended up becoming meat.
Yeah, no, meat glue is an enzyme that is extracted from blood. It can also be made in a tank, but it's usually extracted from blood, and it bonds proteins. In fact, it's involved in the coagulation of blood. It's what makes blood bond, thicken, and it's used to take like little bits of chicken and glue them together, and then bread them and fry them and call them McChicken poop. And,
is that what it is?
It can also be used to make surimi, which is a fish called pollock, which is ground up and flavored and extracted to look like.
Oh no!
It's faux crab meat, but it's not crab; it's fish.
Pollock, right?
The meat glue is used to do that. Oh. A lot of boneless ham loaf, and that boneless turkey breast that is in a perfect tube shape usually has meat glue involved. Some of the really adventurous avant-garde chefs are using it to like glue together lobster and steak and make surf and turf steaks or something, and having some fun with that. It's an enzyme that acts like a glue. And it's used pretty widely in commercial and industrial food production, and also in avant-garde restaurants.
Is it safe? I mean, you can't. Can I just eat meat glue all day long?
I think so. I mean, it's an enzyme. It comes from blood. I mean, blood is popular food in many countries, not this country, but. And as we know, we've discussed this before, the red juice that comes from your steak is not blood.
No,
it is what?
It's hemoglobin.
Myoglobin.
Myoglobin. I'm sorry. Yes. That's
myoglobin. Right. Myoglobin. If it was blood, it would be black. It would be thick. It would coagulate. And this is thin and pink and runny. It's just a protein liquid. It's similar in structure to blood, but it's not blood. So we should stop freaking out our teenagers and turning them into vegetarians by saying, "Oh, you want some blood on your steak?" It's juice. Just call it juice.
So is meat glue something that you feel is going to be becoming more and more popular and mainstream, or is it just going to be kind of off it in a niche market?
I don't know. I know it's used in industrial food production, and as I said, make ham loaf and boneless turkey loaves, and it's used in sausage making. So it's already pretty widely used out there. It's just that you don't know about it. And I do think that some of these avant-garde restaurant cooks, the modern techniques, the guys who make foam and stuff on your plate and then charge you $100 for it, they're playing with it. And they're having some fun with it.
Meathead Goldwyn joining us here on the show talking about meat glue, how I'm right about dogs, and Siri has failed, of course. No surprise to me. AmazingRibs.com is the website. Meathead, we wanted to talk about tonight one of these things that, and it's funny because as I've talked to you here, over the last year or so that you've been coming on and doing the show, you've mentioned, offhand a few times about how somebody will message you or somebody will email you in almost what is a panicked state that the pork butt or the brisket, all of a sudden the temperature is stopped, and what am I going to do? Now, when I got into barbecue, let's say, maybe 6-7 years ago, I was on frequenting the virtual Weber Bullet forum, trying to learn everything I could about my cooker and how to make it work right and cook well as soon as possible. And everybody told me about the stall and that at some point you're going to get to this temperature in or about this time, temperature time frame. And that's when the magic happens. Just take care, relax, go have 1 or 7 beers or however long it's going to take, and each time it's going to be different. But it seems to have almost become, either less known about, or now people are starting to get skittish because maybe it's more of the advent of these digital readout thermometers. I learned, and we're getting a little off track, I had one of those ET73 thermometers. I could see it ticking up every so often, degree by degree. And somebody said, look, Rempy, cool out. Just get a regular solid dial thermometer, put it in the dome, and just relax. Because when you see those temperature swings, whether it be through the cooker or the meat, you want to get out there, you want to start messing around with the cooker and make adjustments, and that's when things can get crazy. Swings in temperature are natural, and they're okay. It's not going to be 700-degree swings, so you're not going to burn anything. That being said, when the stall is happening now, what are you telling people prior to you doing this whole scientific thing we're about to break down?
Well, most people know about the stall. A lot of the old timers who just learned to cook by throwing meat on their pit were unaware of it. They just knew that you gave your pork shoulder or your brisket 90 minutes a pound, or they had a rule of thumb, and they just walked away, watched their pit, and the meat was done when it was done. We're into the 21st century now, and we got thermometers, and and especially in the competition era. I mean, most competition cooks are using digital thermometers. They're on a time schedule. They've got to deliver their meat on time. And I'm on a time schedule too. I don't know how other people cook. When it's done, it's done. But I've got people waiting for dinner, and I try to deliver dinner on time. And I don't want to deliver undercooked or unsafe food. And I don't want to deliver overcooked and dry and hard food. So I watch the temperatures. And the first time I did a pork shoulder, which was, I don't know how many years ago, I did stick a thermometer in it, and man, when it went up to about 160 degrees, and it just stopped there, and it freaked me out. And I get emails like this, comments on my website. It's like the turkey hotline. I get people commenting, and I'm near my computer most of the time, and now that I have an iPhone, I can answer emails.
Can't get away from it.
Rapidly, and I try to respond, and I often respond to questions within an hour or so, and people freak. And I mean, it's only 170 degrees. It's been there for 5 hours, and the guests are arriving. What the hell do I do? I was talking with what's his name, Sterling Ball over at Big Papa Smokers, and they're a internet dealer of pits, and he says he gets calls like that all the time. And so the question is what happens? Let me describe the stall as the user sees it, in case somebody is still not sure. It looks like a lazy boy if you look at a chart. The temperature rises pretty steadily from the moment you put it on the pit until it hits somewhere between 150 and 170. And a lot of that will have to do with things like how much water you have in your pit and how accurate your thermometer is. But somewhere in that 150, 160 range, it rises pretty steadily up till then, and then it stops and it levels out, and it just stays there for 4, 5, sometimes 6 or more hours, and then it goes back up and it finishes cooking. Usually, I don't know what the competition cooks look for. I look for around 190. And so the question is what is that? And everybody was always saying, well, that's where the magic happens. And as we learn more about the chemistry of meat, it was often thought that was the temperature at which one of three things was happening. Either the fat was melting, fat melts, it's called rendering.
Yep.
Or the protein was denaturing. That's when complicated protein molecules break up and recombine and do all kinds of stuff. Or what became quite popular is it was thought that that's the temperature at which collagen goes through a phase change. Collagen is the connective tissue. It's like the silver skin you see on meat. It's the tubes that wrap muscle fibers. It's also the tendons that connect muscles to bone, and even bone is a lot of collagen. But when collagen melts, it combines with water and it turns to gelatin, and that gelatin will actually solidify like Jell-O. If you've ever made chicken stock, you know that you can get this gelatinous material, and that gelatin in the meat is really succulent. It's really rich. It's full of flavor. It's like pork stock. It lubricates the palate, and it's really flavorful. And so a lot of cooks thought, well, that's what happens during the stall. The collagen is being turned to gelatin. Well, I'm real interested in the science of cooking and food, and I'm not a scientist. I don't have real formal training. Interested in it. I was contacted by a reader of my website, a physicist, Dr. Greg Blonder. He used to be the chief technical advisor at AT&T's Bell Labs. AT&T, you ever heard of them?
Never.
Bell Labs, for people who are not familiar, world famous, internationally famous for, among other things, they invented the transistor, and massive number of patents held by Bell Labs, probably the largest, most innovative scientific research facility in private industry in the world. And he was a big shot out there for years, and he was interested in barbecue, and we started communicating back and forth, and I started asking him questions. And so he'd go out and try to answer them. And we were talking about the stall, and he started thinking about it, and he got his slide rule. I don't know if he uses nobody uses a slide rule anymore. He started calculating. He says, well, only 4% of meat is collagen, and that's just not enough to absorb all that energy, the heat that is being used to cook the meat. It's just not enough to absorb all that energy and cause that flattening. So, 15% of it's fat. Maybe it's fat. So he went and got a digitally controlled cooker, and he put a wad of brisket fat, just a big old lump of brisket fat in there, with a temperature probe stuck into it, and then he took a sponge and got it soaking wet and put a temperature probe in that, and he measured the temperature on a recording thermometer as time goes by, and the fat did not stall. It just continued rising straight and steady, but the water sponge rose to about 150, and then it flatlined, and it stalled. It stopped dead. It didn't budge until it hit about 4 hours or 3 hours. I forget the exact time. I've got all the charts on my website. If you go to my website and there's a search button, just search on stall. It'll take you to the article. It's in the technique section. But we've got all the charts that show you what happened, both with a piece of meat and then with his little experiment. So he began to hypothesize, okay, the stall might be due to moisture evaporating from the meat. Now, because meat is 65% water, only 15% fat, 2% sugar, 18% protein, and 4% collagen actually, the 4%, I'm misquoting. The 4% is 4% of the protein. So which is 18%. So I don't know, it's down to like 1% of the total content. So in any case, he realized that it must be the water vat, and he hypothesized that it was essentially the meat sweating, just like you do when you go out and cut the lawn, you sweat, you get wet, and the breeze cools you off. And there's a breeze moving through your cooker from the heat source to the chimney, and it's just cooling the meat, and it's cooling it at such a rate that the temperature isn't rising. So he decided, well, let's do a test. A very simple test was he took a 6-pound pork butt and split it in half and wrapped half in aluminum foil, and the other half he didn't, and put them both on the smoker. And sure enough, the one wrapped in foil didn't stall. It just powered right on through the stall and went on up to 180, 190 degrees, and finished in, I think it was 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours maybe. And then the other one took like 14 hours. And you can see the chart there too. It hit and stalled and held for a long time. And so he began to really look at the physics involved and came to the conclusion that indeed the stall is due to evaporative cooling, moisture coming off the surface of the meat and cooling it. And what's interesting is a lot of us say don't mop your meat because you're opening the oven and you're letting the moisture out. You're putting the temperature imbalanced. You're adding oxygen to your fire, and you're screwing up the whole atmosphere. But there may be some sense to mopping because mopping is cooling it further. Now, it becomes a question of, do you want the stall or not?
All right, Meathead, hold on. Let me interrupt you here just for 1 second.
Yeah.
We'll come back to do we want to stall or do we not want to stall here in just 1 second. We got to take time out to talk about somebody who doesn't stall. They just continue to cook and cook and cook with ferocity. It's the good folks over at the Barbecue Guru. Now, they make these automatic temperature control devices that you may or may not have seen. But look, you're a busy professional like Meathead and I. You have things to do. You don't have to sit there, as he said. It's ready when it's ready. Look, I want to be out and about on the town. I want to be meeting fans. I want to be watching the Browns play football. I don't want to be tending a fire and doing all sorts of shenanigans and tomfoolery while I'm making great barbecue. Well, the Barbecue Guru can actually help you do that. You have 4 different devices to choose from. They're going to help you pick the exact one out for whatever cooker you have. And it's going to take over. It's going to manage that fire. It's going to manage that temperature. When you set it to a certain temperature, it will keep it there. How does it do it? It's microprocessors. It's fans. There's probably a little magic thrown in there. But you have a Procom 4 wireless unit, which you can use up to 600 feet away from your cooker. You can adjust it. You can have the temperature readout right there on your hip if you're so inclined to do that. If you're a huge geek like me, and you want to get temperature readouts as they're happening live in your cooker, hook it up to your laptop, your desktop computer. The CyberQ 2 unit is something you're definitely going to want to take a look at. And, of course, you have the DigiQ DX model and then the NanoQ. I affectionately refer to that as the cruise control for your pit. Not a lot of high-tech stuff that is on here, but it goes up and down in 5-degree increments. You can set it at 225 or 230 or 235. You get the idea because you can add and subtract by 5. Your pit is going to stay right there. Now, you can put on a pork butt, you can put on a brisket before you go to work, and the Barbecue Guru is going to sit there and take all of the guesswork out of how you're going to control that pit temperature while you're slaving for the man. So when you end up getting home, you have a perfectly cooked piece of meat. You can enjoy it knowing that you have successfully maintained temperature, and you haven't even been there. Frees you up to do whatever you want. That's why you got to check them out, bbqguru.com. That's bbqguru.com. Also, they have that Onyx oven that I've been telling you about for weeks. The Onyx oven and a Barbecue Guru automatic pit temperature control devices. Talk about things that work well together. These things were made for each other because, quite frankly, they were made by the same manufacturer. So, if you want to check them out, again, website bbqguru.com, or you can call them toll-free. 800-288-GURU. We'll come back more on the stall with Meathead in just 1 second.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
We're talking with Meathead about the stall. Just the stall, not the method, just the stall. 20 till the hour. Meathead, thanks for letting me talk about my fine sponsor, the Barbecue Guru. We were talking about evaporative cooling.
Yeah, and actually, the Guru is an interesting part of this discussion because that's going to be Dr. Blonder's next piece in collaboration with me. We set out to answer the question, when you're looking, are you cooking? It's an old shibboleth that when you lift the lid, you set back the cooking time about 15 minutes.
Right.
So we've tried to answer that question on gas, charcoal, and pellet grills. Just how does opening up the hood affect things? And I won't give it all away because I haven't finished writing it up yet.
Oh, geez.
But
you owe me after screwing me last week. Reveal to the people what you found out.
No, we'll talk about it later. I haven't finished digesting all of his data.
All right.
I mean, if you look at my write-up and then click the link to his website, you'll see why I interpret him. But I'll say this. The thermostat-controlled pellet grill recovered much faster than any other cooker because it's got a thermostat. And that's the effect of the Guru and the other cooker, the other thermostat controls. Okay, so back, and I dug up my notes here. The 2 pieces of pork butt, one cooked in foil, one cooked out of the foil. The one cooked out of the foil took 14 hours. The one cooked in the foil done in 8 hours. Now, it was pretty much cooked all in foil. Well, now, competition cooks have been cooking in foil for years.
Sure.
They know that it tenderizes. But it also powers them through the stall. It either eliminates or reduces the stall. Now, most of them don't wrap until a higher temp. A lot of them, I understand now, wrap when they like the color that they see, not by temp.
That's right.
But often it's around 170. There's a number of things that go on inside the wrapping. There is a small amount of steam, but not a lot. One of the interesting things he discovered when he did the wrap is as he unwrapped it, the temperature bottomed because immediately the moisture starts evaporating and the temperature rocketed down.
Yeah.
So some people will unwrap it and put it back on the cooker in order to firm up the bark.
Yes.
And what's happening is they're dropping the temperature of the meat. I don't know what – I haven't judged in a while. I don't know what judges are looking for in the way of bark. But my friend Sterling Ball, who competes out on the West Coast, was telling me that he thinks judges feel that if the bark is too hard and crunchy, they believe the meat's overcooked. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what judges are looking for. But wrapping in foil seems to soften the bark significantly. But it does retain a lot of moisture. And you do get some moisture pooling in the foil, which can be added back to the meat when you put together your presentation box or serve it at the dinner table. As long as your rub is not too salty, you can add those drippings back. And then, of course, a lot of folks put moisture in the foil, like a couple ounces of apple juice or beer or wine or whatever. But if you go to AmazingRibs.com and look that article up, you can see his experimental data, his charts, his research, and it's pretty undeniable. It's pretty hard to debate his data. You mentioned last week that there was debate over on the Barbecue Brethren. There was a physics student who lacks the 80 patents that Dr. Blonder has, who put forth the theory that it had something to do with the mass of the cooker, and that was a false theory, and we shot it down, but it created some debate. There is no real debate here that I can think of. It's pretty black and white. The stall is due to moisture evaporating. The meat is sweating. And when you wrap it in foil, it's just as if you were going out to cut the lawn wearing a raincoat.
But it's not steaming in there? Is that what you're saying?
There is some steam. It's not a a huge amount, though, because there's the temperature isn't high enough. There's not a lot of liquid. That issue is addressed in his data also on my website. It's really interesting, and it's not enough steam that it will penetrate the meat and tenderize. A lot of us thought that I say us because I thought this too. The steam was the tenderizer effect, that it was steaming into the meat and somehow or other tendering it, because steam penetrates more than hot air, and so. We thought that was part of the problem.
So, so how is the texture being changed in the foil then? I mean, if I am wearing a tinfoil suit and I go out and jog, I'm going to sweat a lot more than if I don't. Isn't that steaming?
Yeah, it is a little bit, but not a lot. It is changing the texture mostly of the bark. And,
so why does it do it there and not without?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So why does the meat look different when it's coming out of the foil than if it's just left in the cooker, if there's not that much steaming going on?
Well, because it's 100% humidity in there. That foil is a metal jacket, and so the humidity inside there is 100%. And of course, that's part of the issue as to why there's not a lot of steam, because when it's wrapped up and it's sealed up tight, you can't really get a lot of steam generated, and you get into the physics of steam now. But it's 100% humidity in there, and so it's changing the texture of the surface. So you're not going to get a real crunchy bark.
Right.
Now, I got to confess, I don't compete. And so I rarely, if ever, foil. Even my ribs. I'm a backyard cook. I've done it both ways. And I'm sure that some of your competitors can talk better than I can as to how the meat is changed by foiling and not foiling. But if you're working on a time schedule, the idea of foiling somewhere in the 150 to 160 range and powering through the stall gives you a real advantage in getting done on time.
Yeah.
And then if you want to firm up the crust, getting it out, putting it over a higher heat is an option. Or, just skip the foil altogether. I know a lot of people think aluminum foil is treachery, akin to using thermometers, but it works.
Well, I don't have any problem using foil, and I think everybody that I've ever talked to, aside from perhaps a very select few that I couldn't even possibly name if you had a gun to my head, would say that they don't foil at all. At least everybody is doing ribs and probably at least the bigger cuts of meat. Obviously not chicken for the most part. But that being said, I mean, I find that, and again, I've never competed. I have no aspirations in competing because I'm not that kind of a guy. I get my rocks off by my neighbors telling me how good my barbecue is, and that's good enough for me. That being said, I've done ribs without foiling. I've done pork butts without foiling and briskets. And there is a definite tactile difference on the outside of the meats, crispier or harder, however you want to term it as far as descriptors are. We could, go ad nauseum. And then I've also foiled all of those. Ribs, without a doubt, for me, for my palate, we all have individual palates, so whatever you think tastes and looks best is right for you. But I found that I turn out a more consistent end product on ribs when I foil. It might not be for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And I don't know if I'm necessarily looking for a particular color like our friends on the competition circuit are, but there seems to be something that happens in the foil that makes it good for me and my family, and that's why I continue to do it. Pork butts I'm probably 50-50 on, except when I'm pulling it for parties. And especially for the people who have never had it, because let's be honest, you've never seen a butt get pulled before. It looks a little weird. It's not what you're used to seeing that's coming out of those mass-produced containers. So everybody's not real eager to just start tearing off bits of bark like we would. I mean, that tastes great. So you put it in the foil, and it softens it up a little bit and makes it a little easier on the palate when you're consuming it. So I don't have a problem with foil at all, and I think a lot of people, they're probably lying when they say they probably don't use it as much as they do. I think it's a help.
Well, one of the things that goes on inside that foil is you're not getting as much evaporation as you do outside the foil. So you're not getting as much loss. If you cook without foil, you can have, a pretty large weight loss just to evaporation, which, of course, also drives home Blonder's point. You don't have that much loss. There is pooling of moisture. And in fact, one could argue that what's going on inside that foil as the moisture pools at the bottom is braising. So let me just ask this.
That was my next question.
If during a Kansas City barbecue society competition, you know where I'm going now, don't you?
I do.
My favorite topic, the definition of barbecue. Are we braising our pork and brisket and our chicken? Are we simmering it in fat confit style, then searing it over high heat, grilling. Is there any barbecue left in barbecue competition?
No, there's not.
Well, you know, by my definition, it's all barbecue.
That's right.
It's all barbecue.
I mean,
by my definition, it's just different kinds of barbecue. And that's another topic. We've had that debate before. And if anybody wants to hear that theory expounded upon, I also attack it on my website.
Yeah, well, I think that we can both agree that, you know, what's happening on the competition circuit, and I've said it, it might have been 2 or 3 visits ago, is some type of weird bastardization of what we have come to love as low and slow cookers in the process. I might make an argument that the people that do it in the backyard just like the process more. If you could get the same taste out of doing it in a microwave or in a crock pot and you never had to tell anybody, but it looked and felt the same, and we all know it wouldn't, that people would be more apt to doing that because the society that we're living in is a little, but we can hearken back, we can steal back some time and from some other era where you do it low and slow, and there's this whole process and mystique and majesty involved with it, and there's a romance involved with barbecue when you do it, you know, I guess the old school way or the proper way, however you want to term it, which is why I like doing it, and I think it leads to the overall ambiance and enjoyment of the end product.
Well, I'm with you, and I'm torn because so much of the barbecue is that process, is that connecting with the Cro-Magnon man in me and huddling around the fire and cooking. But a huge part of it is, God, it tastes so good.
Right.
And I just want good food. So I love my Maverick ET73, or now I guess it's a newer model, my digital thermometer. I love the Barbecue Guru. I love Butcher Blend. And these things that they're turning in at competitions, what they're really doing, whether you call it barbecue or whatever, or braising or grilling or whatever, is they're cooking. And they're cooking good damn food.
Yeah.
It's really evolved, though, because of the money, because of the competition, because of our knowledge of food science, people like Blonder and others who are teaching us more and more about what's going on. It's evolved into advanced outdoor cooking, and I think you have to call it barbecue. It's all barbecue, but there is a lot of interesting stuff going on, and it does turn out god-awful good food.
That's right. He is Meathead Goldwyn, and he's running AmazingRibs.com. We have dispelled the stall, so fear not, my friends, and this is the way you can power right through it. Go to AmazingRibs.com to get more and read up on that great article. It's a great read, very high level, and we certainly appreciate that, and Meathead always appreciate the time. Can't wait to figure out what we'll be talking about next month.
Oh, I love coming on here, Greg. It's great fun.
All right, take care. There he is, Meathead, joining us here on the show. So hopefully everybody is now well-versed in what the stall is. I'm not saying the stall method anymore. Oh, my God. The emails rifle in like I've made claims against somebody's life. All right, well, here it is, folks. Imagine you have something to sell product-wise to the barbecue and grilling world. This is your spot right here, these 3 minutes of the show. I talk about your product, how great it is, how people can benefit from it, my personal testimonial because I try stuff that I sponsor. Unless you're a store, I can't try your store. But you got to be reputable. I do check that. I do my due diligence before I get behind and partner with a company. A lot more affordable than you think, and the benefits reign supreme. Why? Because you hear me talk live here on the show to the 100 people or so that we've had on throughout the course of the night on both the video and or audio side. But then the show goes up on podcast. You can get it tomorrow. You'll re-listen at your own convenience. 5 years from now, somebody could be hearing me talk about your product, and you get residual business from partnering with the show. That being said, I know I don't talk about it a lot, but I want to drive all of you Centralites. Maybe you enjoy, you miss talking about barbecue and grilling in the chat room, and you want someplace to go and hang out. Lots of great forums out there, I know. Love the Barbecue Brethren. BarbecueForum.com is the worst place ever. Don't go there. But I have one. Barbecue Central Forum. It's an internet forum for barbecue and grilling. BBQ-4-U.com or the BBQ Central No show, just thebbqcentral.com. It's free to register. And you can ask all of your questions that you have about barbecue. You can ask all of your questions you have about grilling. If you want to make a cooker, if you have a particular style of cooker, my forum does not cater to one region, nor does it cater to any style of cooker. Many different varying levels of barbecue and grilling expertise there. So the first thing to know is you're going to get all your questions answered promptly because it's high traffic. But more importantly, these people are friendly and they're looking to help you. So jump in, ask, get questions. I'm in there all the time as well. TheBBQCentral.com. It's the Barbecue Central Forum, an internet forum for barbecue and grilling. Kind of coincides here with the show, so you get your fix in between Tuesdays and podcast listenings. Don't forget to check out the new YouTube that's going on as well, YouTube/BBQ Central, where you can get the video segments of this show. I'm going to start breaking those down too. Click on those ads that you see. Make the show some money, for crying out loud. All right, we're going to come back and wrap up the show right after this. Stick around.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. 877-448-0433. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. In case you want to jump in on the show tonight, more than happy to have you. Weigh in on any of the guests that we've had currently. Or, if you want, we can talk about Meathead and the stall. So it's evaporative cooling. If you missed it, of course, go to AmazingRibs.com. You can also catch this segment on podcast at some point very early, either very late tonight. Probably not tonight, though. Very early tomorrow morning. I should have everything uploaded. And then, of course, if you like to watch me on video and hear Meathead on audio, you can download what I'm sure will be at least 4 video segments on YouTube as well. That's something new that we're doing here on the show. But go to AmazingRibs.com and do the initial read on the stall and what that's all about and how Greg Blonder goes through and kind of hypothesizes what it could be and then puts it to the test. And his study shows, beyond a shadow of a doubt, as Meathead said, really nothing to argue with. Your meat is getting to a certain degree and it's sweating. The moisture is evaporating out of the meat, and that's what's causing the cooling. Just like if you were running around. Look, human biology dictates that as you are getting hotter internally, your body needs to cool itself. So blood vessels will raise up towards the skin to cool itself just through the air. And then if that's not helping, it will start to put water on top of your skin. The wind will blow over it, and then you will cool down. It's a body cooling. It's called sweating. And that's what's happening here, according to Mr. Blonder. So the stall has been now scientifically broken. There's no magic happening. There's not collagen or anything like that is going on, fat rendering or anything like that. The meat is cooling off, and then all of a sudden, you've stopped sweating. What would imagine what would happen as a human being if you were in a sweat box, and it happens when you get dehydrated. What happens if you stop sweating? Well, at some point, your temperature can either moderates or is continually dropping, but then when you're done sweating, bad things happen. Core temperature starts to rise. You get above where you need to be to stay living, and then you expire, which... the good news is pork butt is not alive, so we've already killed what the goodness is of it. And then temperature starts to rise back up again. You break through the stall. No magic is happening. By the way, fat on fat caps and stuff, when it's melting off, does not go through the meat and then out the other side. Just so we can, I'd like to dispel one more myth and spread one more truth out there in the barbecue and grilling world tonight before we leave. Fat cap rendering, it does not go through the meat. It's like an umbrella with rain. It just cascades over the top and drips down into your pan. So never think that the fat is dripping actually through your meat from the fat cap. It's patently ridiculous. I'll laugh at you. All right, we thank Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com for breaking down the stall, also telling me that I was right when it comes to dog owners. We talked about iPhone 4 as well. Siri doesn't know who I am, not surprised, I'm nobody. And then meat glue, which evidently is what McPoop is made out of. Meat glue. Chicken parts fashioned together, kind of like a food soldering, if you will. First hour, we had Bill Gillespie, Smokin' Hogs. They won the 23rd annual Jack Daniel's Barbecue Cook-Off just this past weekend. And then we had, who did we have? Ken Hess from Big Bob Gibson's. They took reserve at Jack Daniel's as well. Hey, guess what? Got to give a big congratulations to Patrick for winning the Guess Who's Going to Win the Jack contest. So, Patrick, you're going to be getting a very special prize, something you're going to enjoy for, well, depending on how you use it, days or maybe a week or more, depending on how you cook. So you're going to need to email me, greg@thebbqcentralshow.com. Put prize on the subject line. Also, I have 3 more polishing cloths to give away. So if you didn't get one last week, email me that you want a polishing cloth. Be sure to include your shipping info so I know where to send it. Those will be going out tomorrow. Thanks to all my guests. We'll see you back here next Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until I see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.